Alrighty, dude.
Alrighty.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good to see you. You want to do a little intro to the camera?
Hey, what's up? My name is James Deere. I am from Barrie, Ontario. I am a cyclist, personal trainer, and amateur filmmaker, creator, however you want to put it. And I'm stoked to be here with my buddy Jesse getting a tattoo.
And longtime friend. We've been friends for a long time.
Absolutely. Insert a clip of funny guitar fight real quick.
Oh, yeah. I'll do that for sure. So, dude, we're doing this piece for you today. It's kind of like a tomahawk.
Absolutely.
And you have I guess you have your native card, so you're...
Yeah, I actually have a little bit of an indigenous heritage, which is kind of the inspiration behind this piece. You know, tomahawk's a sign of strength and just, diving back and touching roots, so...
And is it is it on your dad's side or your mom?
Yeah, my dad's side. My great-grandfather was actually a chief of the Mohawk tribe in Quebec. So,
really?
Yeah, man.
Did you ever, your great-grandfather?
Yeah, my great.
Did you ever meet him or no?
No, unfortunately not.
Cool, let me just, we'll get started here.
Get comfy.
So you recently became a hardcore cyclist, eh?
Yeah, kind of unintentionally. I grew up loving cycling, as any kid does, bike rides around the neighborhood. And then I kind of got this crazy idea when I was a teenager that I wanted to ride my bike across all of Canada. So kind of started thinking about that. It was in the back of my mind for a few years, and the opportunity kind of presented itself work-wise. Got in contact with a couple of buddies who, kind of share the same adventurous spirit, and we got a plan rolling. So.
And you filmed the whole thing, right? And it's on your YouTube channel.
Absolutely. So we filmed our 4-month adventure cycling across Canada from Newfoundland to British Columbia, and it's 6 episodes. Each episode varies from 20 minutes to 45 minutes, and the whole adventure is there and documented.
That's so sweet, dude.
Yeah, it's fun.
So you landed in Newfoundland.
Yeah. So it was actually a little we did not know what we were getting into. When we decided to do this, we bought our bikes a month before the trip. Literally the day before we flew to Newfoundland, I was going to the shop getting a rack installed. It was just super last minute. And I think we only did 1 day of training before the trip actually started. So
what did your training consist of?
It consisted of one 100-kilometer ride from Barrie to Wasaga Beach. And when I got back, I could hardly walk, man. So it was
really?
It was a bit of an eye-opener of what we were kind of diving into.
Okay, so you started in May of last year?
Yeah, so we flew out to Newfoundland in May of last year, and we didn't really do any research into what the weather was going to be like. So we showed up to actually the most beautiful sunset, picture perfect. It was unreal, super stoked to get the adventure started. And then Aaron, who was supposed to fly in the next day, actually missed his flight. So Tyler and I went out to just a campground in St. John's. And
so you didn't start without him?
No, it was 3 Musketeers for that trip, so we were definitely making sure we were all starting strong together.
That's awesome. Did you guys were you all prepared, or was one of you less prepared than the other? Or?
I think we were all as prepared as we kind of could be.
Yeah.
Being so green to the whole cycling touring thing, none of us really knew what we were getting into. I think that first weekend we got there, Tyler and I's bikes were so overweighted just with gear, so we had to go to the post office, I think 3 times in Newfoundland just to send stuff home. So
really,
between overpacking, under training, and just having no idea what we were actually doing, it was definitely a learning curve.
So the first, and Nova Scotia was the first one you guys hit?
Yeah, Newfoundland was the first one we hit.
Or Newfoundland.
Yeah.
And was that the hardest one, or?
It was definitely a rough start.
Just because of the weather?
Yeah, with the weather, if you're unfamiliar with Newfoundland, it's just constant rolling hills. So as you can imagine, with no training, our legs gassed out so quick the first couple days. Surprisingly, though, within the first week and a half, we were pretty well adapted for the rest of the trip. So
yeah,
it was cool to see how fast the body adapts to intensity and stuff like that.
How many hours a day were you cycling? What was your rest kind of periods?
Yeah, so give or take, we were cycling about anywhere from 6 to 10-ish hours a day. So almost a full work day every day of biking. And it would really depend. I mean, in the Maritimes, we really took our time and enjoyed. We visited a lot of family on Tyler and Aaron's side. Took a couple rest days, spent a weekend in PEI, spent a weekend in Nova Scotia. And then from there, we really had to pick up the pace.
Yeah. So where were you guys staying, during this trip? Because obviously you're not staying in the same place each night because you're moving. And
absolutely. So that was one thing that I actually feel I really learned from this trip was being comfortable with the uncomfortable and the unpredictable. Like there were so many days we'd wake up and we had no idea where we were staying that night. And, previously for me, that's something that definitely, I'd want to know where we're going to be sleeping,
Yeah,
something
for
like
sure.
that. So it's just really learning how to adapt to that. You're waking up and you're going to get as far as you can. You don't know where that's going to be. But for the most part, around midday, we'd start looking at campgrounds within, the next 50 to 60 kilometers.
So you guys had like tents
Yeah,
and
we were
stuff.
all self-supported. So we each had our a
Okay.
tent to ourselves. We had each had our own like cooking equipment and stuff like that. In hindsight, we probably could have all shared and, each brought something and then shared all the equipment. But
Oh, okay.
yeah, especially with food equipment. But yeah, so we all had our own tents. And we pretty much stayed at campgrounds for that last 2-ish weeks in the mountains when it was starting to get really cold. We had one night in Hope where it was actually -2 degrees and we all had summer sleeping bags. So
Oh my God.
that was brutal. After that, we kind of just bit the bullet and either stayed with friends or got a hotel every night because it was so cold. But yeah, the first 3.5 months, it was a lot of camping. People on Warm Showers, which is like a bicycle hosting website, and even people on Airbnb gave us great deals.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, we actually did the ride as a fundraiser for Canadian Cancer Society. So, touching base on the fact that we were doing it for a good cause, people were more willing to help us out. So,
No, that's awesome. So what did you have to send home then? Like when you first landed?
the first day that we got there, it was just a bunch of stuff. Like when you're bike touring, you should really only have the essentials. Like you really don't need much besides the clothes you're going to be wearing and your phone, GPS, that kind of stuff. But I had like a TRX on me. I had like a ton of cooking equipment that I didn't need. It's like way more clothing than you could honestly need on like a camping trip without a bicycle. Just a ton of stuff. I mean, when you're going for 4 months, you almost have that scarcity mentality of like, oh my goodness, I need all these comforts. But once we actually got out there and started moving, you really realize you don't need much on these kind of trips. So
Yeah, no, that's... And like how many sets of clothes did you have? Like were you able to wash your clothes and like...
yeah,
or what? Like...
Yeah, so we each had maybe 2 or 3 t-shirts, 2 pairs of shorts, a couple pair of underwear and some socks. But there were some times, especially in Quebec, where it was almost comical how bad some of us smelled. Like there would be days where we were just like, the mission was find a laundromat. So, it was definitely a lot of, reusing shirts that are pretty crusty and sweaty and just...
I remember in your video you were like either Tyler or Aaron were in front of you and you were like saying like you could just smell them just because you were behind
the
them.
draft was so bad. Like that's kind of what I'm referencing in Quebec. Like the draft was just so bad that I literally couldn't bike behind Tyler because he smelled so bad. But I mean, it's kind of to be expected. You're pushing your body for like 8 to 10 hours every day and like sweating in the Canadian heat during summer. Like you're just gonna get cooked. So
and like your food intake, you must have had like 5 meals a day if possible.
Absolutely. So it was kind of like I used to refer to my diet on bike trip as the childhood dream. I was eating like candy every night, just because when you're burning 3,000 to 8,000 calories every day, just getting from point A to point B, you definitely gotta have a big caloric intake. So it was a lot of Tim Hortons runs in the morning. Like we'd have tons of breakfast wraps, stuff like that.
Just anything you could eat. I think you were like, you had a bunch of like your childhood food like Dunkaroos and like, you could eat anything and
we were burning so many calories that it didn't matter what we were eating. So we'd go to like the dollar store, stock up on stuff like fruit roll-ups, Dunkaroos, like Jesse said, and just really stock up on the high calorie, not so good for you foods. And it definitely started to catch up to us near the end of the trip. We had stuff like green powders, but actually traveling on a bicycle, not having access to a fridge, not having access to anything you can actually store stuff that needs to stay cool was a big learning curve. That was one thing I was so thankful for when we were done, was just having access to a fridge. Like you don't realize how much you need one.
No, that's unreal, dude. Like just the things that you thought, like just a bed that's yours to sleep in, just like clean clothes every day.
Absolutely.
You could not have any of this while you were
for sure, man.
doing this.
That's one thing you don't really take into account until you're doing it, is like you have to set up camp and tear it down twice a day, every day. Damn. By the time it's like your 200th time blowing up your sleeping pad, you are over it, man. You just want to like have a comfy bed you can climb into and chill.
So in the beginning, you guys probably camped a lot, but as you moved on, you're probably like, all right, let's get some more hotels.
Exactly. So that's exactly it. We started camping off really heavy, really strong. And, we still did camp quite a bit throughout the whole trip, but near the end, we were definitely kind of pitching for hotels, and
that's totally understandable. Like, you're doing something that's so brutal to begin with. Like you gotta be able to sleep and
Yeah, for sure. No, those nights that we would split on a hotel, it was definitely always we try and soak it in and like really take advantage of the sleep, just because sleeping in a tent for 4 months, man, it adds up. And
yeah. No, that's gotta be brutal. And how long did it take in total? Like
so it was 91 days of actual biking, and
okay.
then with rest days, like I said, we took days off in the Maritimes. We actually took a full week off here in Barrie when we got home. It was 120 days, so 91 days of full biking and 120 days for the whole trip.
Okay.
Yeah.
And which province took the longest?
Ontario took the longest by far. So for those who don't know, Ontario is actually bigger than most countries in the world. It took us 45 days to get from the Quebec border to the
To like the next
Manitoba.
Manitoba?
Yeah. It took us
Dang.
45 days to get from the Quebec border to the Manitoban border. So yeah,
That's brutal.
it was a journey, man. And Ontario is a scary place for cyclists. I mean, if you live in Ottawa or Toronto or a bigger city, it's kind of a dream because of the bike systems. But when you get out into the rural parts of the Trans Canada Highway, which is what we stuck to,
Yeah.
there is like no shoulder at all. It was terrifying, man. Like
I saw some of that video, like the trucks just zooming past you, and
Yeah.
it's like so dangerous.
Yeah, I could definitely like live my whole life without ever hearing a semi pass by me at 120 kilometers, literally 3 feet beside me on the side of the road. So
Were you like wearing headphones or ear protection, or what were you doing?
yeah. So that was one thing that we were kind of all sure of at the beginning of the trip was the safety behind wearing headphones or listening to
Yeah.
music while we're riding. And it was funny because about 4 or 5 days in, we met another cyclist from Switzerland named Simone, and he had full like wired earphones in. And we asked him, and he was like, "Dude, I'm on a bike. If I'm gonna get hit, I'm gonna get hit. I'm gonna be enjoying my music at least." So
Yeah.
kind of that change for us. We're like, all right, let's enjoy our times on the bike. I had like a little JBL clip, so I was listening to music on there.
Like you guys could all listen to music together, kind of thing.
Sort of. For the most part, we're about like anywhere from 10 to like 30 feet apart from each other. Like during our actual cycling days, we were kind of spread out. And then we kind of, meet up at gas stations, meet up at certain
really?
points, wait for each other. But we were never like together as a pack the whole time.
Oh, I thought you did it like all together, like just side by side. But I guess
for the most part, like we'd all start together. But
Yeah.
being 3 different dudes, completely different weights, heights,
Yeah.
and like cycling
I
styles.
never even
Honestly,
thought about that.
yeah. So it'd be like we'd all start together. Maybe one of us would fall, like behind a little bit, and then we'd send a message in the group chat, make a call, and be like, "I'm here. Meet me here. We'll meet you at this spot." That kind of thing. There was also we dealt with so many flat tires during this trip that it was almost comical. Like both Aaron and Tyler were both in the, I believe, 12 plus range. So it was almost 30 flat tires among the 3 of us in the 4-month range. So between like changing your own flat and stuff like that, the other 2 don't want to wait around. We just want to keep going. So
Right.
a lot of the time we'd either meet up for lunch, meet up for, certain areas. But for the most part, we're all kind of in our own heads, cycling and just covering ground.
Yeah, in your video, you were always in a bike shop, like
Dude, yeah, I can't.
like every other like
Yeah.
clip, you were in a new bike shop or
Yeah.
something.
Thankfully, we went with steel frame bikes. We went with Kona Sutras, so the actual like frame of our bikes were fine.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you how many, like I said, flat tires we had, man. Like that was the worst part. In Newfoundland, I got a bungee cord wrapped into my hydraulic brake by accident, so that was a nightmare. It ended up leaking, and I couldn't get that fixed until we were like basically in PEI. So just little things that you don't really take into account that just happen. Being on the road adventure, like stuff's gonna happen, and you just kind of learn to deal with it. Like pretty much through a lot of the scarier hills of Newfoundland, I only had a front brake. It's just
Really?
you're trying to fix it. The boys did the best that they could, but none of us were bike mechanics going into this. We were learning on the way. So,
That's crazy.
but yeah, so definitely, if you're ever going to take a trip like this, I'd encourage you to take a class on how to fix your bike beforehand.
Definitely take a course on how to like fix your bike. How much were the tires each time you had to replace them?
So we only had to. I replaced my tires once, just because the halfway through, after 4,000 kilometer, the tread is going to start to wear.
Yeah.
But Tyler actually had to go through, I think, 4 or 5 separate wheels, and that was in Ontario alone. It was just like he got cursed. It was a nightmare.
How much was it like each time?
For a complete like new set of tires, it put us back with a tune-up around almost $300. So It
Dang.
wasn't cheap, man. Like there was a lot of things where you just, you don't take in consideration that you're going to need to spend money on more than just your food and more than, you go into a trip like this thinking, oh, I'm going to be fine. I'm living off out of a tent and just eating food. But there's so many things you don't take in consideration. So
That's crazy. Like, what was it like? Burger King, Tim Hortons,
a lot of it was
like
like,
fast food?
yeah, especially on the road, man. Like we were following the Trans Canada Highway, so there would be times where there'd be a 200-kilometer stretch where there's nothing. So either you have to load up at Walmart on things you can eat that are like peanut butter
Okay.
Nutella wraps, granola bars, fruit roll-ups, that kind of thing. And then when you do see the fast food, obviously if you can afford it and you want to go for it, go for it.
Yeah.
Like in Newfoundland, I can't tell you how many times we ate Robins. Like in mainland Canada, I can't tell you how many Tim Hortons breakfast wraps we ate across the trip. Like it is, yeah. When you're burning that many calories, you just need whatever you can to
How
fuel
much were you
yourself.
sleeping a night? Like, how many hours were you getting?
It kind of depended. Unfortunately, I didn't have the best sleep during the trip. Just a mix of sleeping in a tent on a pad and being beside the highway pretty much every night. Mixer of highway noise and just
Mm.
the sounds that come around when you're sleeping in a tent. Being 4 feet away from two dudes at all times. So, um, yeah.
But did
So
they had their own tent, or you
yeah, we,
guys?
we each had our own single
Yeah.
person tent. So
So
that
you said you could have done it with one big tent, though.
I think tents is something that you should probably have, just because when you're with two other dudes for 4 months straight, you can definitely start to get a little sick of each other at times and frustrated. So I
Okay.
think having that separation of at least having your own place to sleep every night and wind down, that was
Yeah.
a big benefit. So I'd
Did you
say,
guys ever get into like kind of not fights, but kind of just arguments or just?
yeah, there was definitely lots of times where, one of us is having a hard day. Like, for example, I had a lot of wrist pain when we got to Ontario. Aaron was dealing with Achilles issues like the whole trip. Tyler, like I said, was dealing with insane mechanical issues. So just there's so many outside factors that are just testing your patience, testing your resilience that, obviously there's going to be times where you get frustrated with each other and like, you know, as with anyone, if you're together 24/7, you're going to, start to fixate on the things that make you upset. So it was a lot of times where we just have to remind ourselves like we're doing this for the right reasons. We're all buddies here. We're all on the same team. If you get frustrated, just take a minute to yourself. Let people know that you're not in a good mood and just like, yeah, just roll with it. Because I think if we had all, gotten a little grumpy and not expressed our feelings, I think the trip may not have come to finish. So
Yeah. At
yeah.
the end, was it just like a? Did you any of you like guys like break down, or did you guys just like so happy and?
I'd say the closest I was personally to breaking down was like end of Ontario. Like I said, I was just dealing with crazy wrist problems. I didn't get aero bars, which are like the way you can lie on your bike until after Ontario. So I was just
Oh.
crushing my wrists every day. Just like excruciating pain,
So
carpal
like
tunnel.
this, that's you were you riding
Exactly.
like
I
that?
was riding like this.
But with
Just
those, you're kind of like this.
exactly. You're
Hmm.
basically laying down, and it's on your elbows, not your wrists. So
Right. Did you ever have like a breakdown, like at the
oh
end, like when you were
yeah.
done? Was it just like?
Yeah, so the closest I would say I was to a breakdown was in Ontario, dealing with all those wrist issues.
Right.
Like I said, it was just like crazy carpal tunnel. It got to a point where when we were in Wawa, I like literally couldn't change my gears on my bike. I couldn't. I went to a post office to send stuff home, and I couldn't write my address down. Like
No.
it was so bad. So Aaron, who was also dealing with Achilles issues, we decided to take a break, and we actually took 4 days off. We rented a U-Haul, and we drove from Wawa to Thunder Bay.
Okay.
During that time, Tyler took the torch for the team, and he covered that ground solo. So we were kind of like his backup in the U-Haul. We'd meet him halfway through the day, kind of thing.
Okay.
So that
Okay.
was I think if we wouldn't have taken that time to recover and like reset, I don't think Aaron and I would have made it to the finish.
So there was a part of the journey where you didn't bike.
Yeah, so there was about 300 or 400 kilometers in the middle of Ontario where Aaron and I had to, take a little bit of a break just due to injury.
But
We really
Tyler
wanted
was
to
able.
finish. Yeah, exactly.
Tyler was
We
able to
wanted
do
to finish the other provinces, but Tyler carried the torch for us and, made sure that as a team we did cover all of Canada. So Aaron and I would like to go back and cover that.
Right. I
that
do
bit of
remember
time.
you saying that in your video. Yeah.
Yeah, so we will be going back eventually and finishing it off, but just at the time, it made the most sense for us to take a break and just
How long will that little section take you?
probably 3 to 4 days.
Oh, okay.
But I think if we were to do it again, we'd go back and kind of enjoy it. That part of
Yeah.
northern Ontario is actually beautiful. So we'd probably take our time, stay at campgrounds for a few days at a time and really enjoy it. But
Right,
that's the
right.
thing. When you're on a bike trip that is 8,000 kilometers long, you really don't have as much time as you would think to, stay in a spot for a good amount of time and really soak it in. Especially when you're following a highway, there are so many times where there would be a detour that was 50, 60 kilometers off the route, and that's a
Mm,
full day of biking because you can only cover about 80 to 100 kilometers a day without completely gassing yourself out over and over again. So there would be things like places we'd want to go see that we just couldn't because it would take an extra day or two just to go off track for
wow,
something that would only take an hour in a car. So yeah,
that's crazy. That's a feat just in by itself, just to
100%. It definitely taught all of us a lot about, just resistance, resilience, and just, sticking true to something. If you're going to say you're going to do something, that was one part about it. Was there were so many times we were all debating quitting or we wanted to stop, but because we had advertised this on social media that we were doing this, it was almost a thing of
yeah, you
like I
couldn't
have to
quit.
prove this to myself that I can make it through. So it was a
Yeah.
big challenge, but the fact that all three of us finished together was just I couldn't have asked for a better ending. So yeah.
And how well did you know these guys going into it? Like,
Yeah, pretty well. So they were essentially like childhood best friends of mine, kind of like Jesse and I here. Like we grew up together skateboarding. Tyler and I spent so much time together as young teenagers, and then kind of reconnected and rekindled our relationships as young adults. Same with Aaron; he's been a buddy of mine since we were 13, skateboarding around. So, yeah, close friends. But now I definitely say we're brothers after an experience like that. It was,
yeah, that's definitely
yeah,
going to bring you a lot closer.
absolutely, man. Definitely an experience I can confidently say I won't share with a lot of other people. So.
Do you guys think you'll do it again? Something like that?
I think we'd like to do another country, like maybe Japan or Europe or something like that. But I don't think
Yeah.
we'd ever do Ontario, or I don't think we'd ever do Canada again. It's just so
No.
big. Aaron mentions maybe doing it again someday, but just with the current biking infrastructure, man, it is scary. Like some parts of it where I would never do Ontario again, to be honest with you.
No. So it would need to be improved for you guys to be able to kind of do it again. And
Yeah, if there was like proper bike trails that went across the whole country, I would do it again in a heartbeat. But because there were so many days where we were risking our lives on the highway, putting ourselves in terrifying situations, yeah, it was just
but if you're going to do another bike trip, you'd probably want to do somewhere different, right?
exactly. If I'm going to
Like,
go spend a couple weeks on a bike, I want to be in a new
yeah.
place. I want to, experience a new culture. So,
Whatever happened to the guy that you met up at the beginning with? Like, did he do the whole of Canada or?
yeah, so Simone finished the trip. We met this awesome guy named Jin who was actually cycling from Newfoundland all the way to Argentina. So he was going all the way. We met him last year in Ontario for the first time. We saw him twice on the trip, once in Wawa, and then once again a little bit later near the end. And he has kept going, man. Right now, he just made it to Baja, California. So a whole year
Oh,
later, he's still been
he's.
cycling.
Oh my
Yeah, so
gosh.
that's kind of his life, and he's just one of those guys that turned it into his career, and yeah, awesome. I'd recommend you check out his videos if you're interested.
So he's going to Argentina and he's still going.
Still going, man.
I mean, he must have had a break though, right?
No, he's been going since.
Really?
Strong, yeah.
And it's taken that long?
Yeah, and beforehand he did all of Europe, I believe. So he's just like a crazy, crazy cyclist.
That's insane that he's still going.
Yeah, it was really cool meeting, other cyclists on the road, especially as the three of us were so green, starting as complete beginners. There were some people that had some, really cool stories of the places other bicycles have taken them.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool just to see other Canadians on the road enjoying our country. So
Yeah, so like a Europe trip would probably be.
yeah, I think the number one that us boys want to do as a group would be Japan.
Okay.
And after that, yeah, something in Europe, maybe Italy or something like that.
Do you guys see yourselves doing that like in the near future, or what do you think?
Hopefully within the next 5 years.
5 years?
After taking 4 months to just go bike across the country, it definitely it's not cheap to do, and leaving your family, your responsibilities for 4 months at a time isn't always feasible every year. So
I wonder how Jin was doing it.
well, that's what I said. He's turned it into his career. So
Yeah.
he makes YouTube videos and like he's self-supported.
Okay, so he has like his.
Yeah, he's got like Patreon subscribers. And
Oh,
stuff, I believe,
okay.
so.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so in like 5 years, you'll probably do another trip like that
Yeah, ideally we'd like to do another one. I don't know
with the
if
same guys.
Yeah, probably
Yeah.
the same boys, a little bit of nostalgia there, but I don't think I'd ever do another 4 month trip. I think the longest I'd do, again, would probably be like 3 to 4 weeks. So
How long would Japan take? Do you know, or?
probably around that 3 to 4 week mark.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not too long.
So 4 months, yeah, that's definitely
Yeah.
a long time.
Canada is the second biggest country in the world, so it definitely took us a while. But it is crazy, man. Like you'd think you saw all of Canada biking across it, but
Yeah.
can't even tell you how much more land there is out there, dude. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, you head up north.
And you didn't hit like the northern provinces, right? Like you didn't hit like the territories or
No,
Yukon or none of
no,
that.
we did the bottom 10 all the way across, pretty much following the Trans Canada Highway the whole way.
Oh, okay. Was there anyone you met that did those provinces up north?
Yes, we met a guy named Dave our last day in Newfoundland, and he actually went like through like the Northwest Territories. I believe he was into like the Yukon and everything. Like he went
Oh,
way up
okay.
there, and yeah, he spent a good while on the bike and saw some awesome parts of Canada that not a lot of people can say they have seen.
Dang. Yeah, like I don't even know if I'd ever visit there. Like it's just so far north,
Yeah,
and it's probably mostly like winter conditions. So you
yeah.
probably
No, he was like cycling around glaciers and stuff, man. Like it's insane.
that's that's awesome. Like, but it would be cool.
Sure.
Was there any health issues that you guys faced besides
Yeah,
like your
apart from like general injuries, there was nothing too serious. I think Aaron had a bit of a bug like when we first got to Newfoundland,
was that
especially
like at the very beginning?
yeah, very
It
beginning.
might have just been like nerves
Might
or
have been a little bit of nerves, might have been, you know, sleeping in the super cold temperatures in a tent with a summer sleeping bag.
yeah.
A little bit of everything, but yeah, he had a bug for the first bit, but apart from that, you know, I think when you're using your body so consistently, it kind of has to be in it's trying to stay healthy, you know. So for the most part, we're all pretty healthy, and yeah, no bad food poisoning, thankfully, nothing like that.
Yeah, nobody got like super sick where you had to like stop. But
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
videos, you got heat stroke though.
Yes, so I did end up suffering heat stroke. I was the worst out of the three of us for like making sure I was hydrated and like refilling my bottles.
You
Just
just weren't doing it.
yeah, just like you would think it'd be so obvious to do, but when you're
Yeah.
in that every day, like trying to get from point A to point B, when you have to stop like every half hour, every hour, undo your back bag, undo all the clips, undo like the clip on your super jiggly water bottle, and try and pour it into a bottle on the side of the highway, like it's a pain, man. So there'd be times where I technically would have to refill my water, but it would just be almost such an inconvenience that
So
I
you're just
wouldn't
like,
want to, and that I ended up paying the price for it. It was in it was in the middle of Ontario, I'd say. We're heading towards like northern Ontario, quote unquote, from the Trans Canada Highway.
okay.
And there was just a couple big days where we were pushing around the Pancake Bay area, and I ended up not hydrating properly. My legs started like shaking a lot. I was getting like I thought they were just muscle cramps, but
Yeah.
it was pre like heat exhaustion cramps.
Okay, it was just kind of some signs of your body's
Exactly.
like
My body was
stop.
letting me
But
know I gotta hydrate, and then I just kind of ignored it. And one day we were pushing with Jin actually, and yeah, I started feeling the heat, and that's one thing. Like once you feel thirsty, it's too late
yeah,
when you're doing such intense exercise. Like any long distance cyclist, any long distance runner, once you feel thirsty, you're already like dehydrated. So it's all about staying ahead of the curve. So that day I was not on it. I ended up feeling like super like dehydrated, super like heavy. I started like getting swaying vision, and I ended up like actually passing out on the side of the highway. And
did
I
you
was
fall
alone.
off your bike?
No, thankfully I like stopped because I was feeling so out of it. But like
Okay.
the other boys were behind me fixing a flat, so like when they pulled up, I was basically on the ground, like almost like hyperventilating just because I was so out of it. And thank God, some guy called the cops for us who like were afraid to stop because three dudes on the side of the highway being like, "Oh, there's a guy down." You're probably better off not stopping, as you know, just realistically. But they were nice enough to call the cops for us, and then somebody actually did stop. And by a miracle, they had a bunch of like ice water in their car.
Really?
So I chugged a bunch of ice water, put a bottle on my head, was just trying to cool down my whole body.
Did
And
you pass out?
yeah, I passed
Yeah,
out.
you passed out.
Yeah, like
Have
when
you
I was
ever
getting that swaying vision,
yeah
I passed out on the side of the road and was like literally like
convulsing?
convulsing.
Really?
Yeah, the boys didn't know what to do. Thankfully, that person stopped. We were about like 15 kilometers out from the town that we are trying to get to that day. So thankfully, the cops gave me a ride. I rented a room for the night.
Obviously, you stopped for that day, or
I stopped for that day.
Yeah.
Rented a room, got some AC going, and just tried to reconvene the next day. The next day, we took another rest day just because heat
Yeah.
stroke's no joke, and
Yeah.
we just posted up at a campground, hydrated as much as possible before we kept going and finished Ontario.
even that there, I would have been like, all right, guys, I think I'm done. I can't.
I can't tell you, man. Like there was a few times where, between the wrist injuries, that dehydration episode, and just like genuine like pain, and like it takes so long that there's a lot of times where I was just like, boys, I don't know. This might be the last province for me. There was a lot of times all of us were like
You were
questioning.
almost there, eh?
Yeah.
Like,
But
yeah.
after Ontario, like once we got to the prairies, it honestly flew by.
Yeah, like it was just a lot of flat
Yeah.
land in like is it Manitoba
Yeah,
or
Manitoba is where, yeah,
Saskatchewan?
exactly. Manitoba is where it starts. So like the first little bit of
Yeah,
Manitoba kind of feels like Ontario, and then the trees just completely disappear,
yeah.
and you're in the flats. But yeah, the prairies were really nice. It was actually where we pushed our biggest day.
What
So
was that?
250 kilometers from.
And how long did it take you?
It took us about 12 hours that day. So
You did
250
12
kilometers.
hours?
Yeah, but we
Just because
had,
it was so easy, like to bike, that you were like,
yeah,
let's
it
just
was
keep
flat
going.
grounds, and we actually had tailwinds that day. So
So it was helping you like
it was helping
move,
us like
eh?
crazy. That's one thing going east to west, starting in Newfoundland, heading towards British Columbia, is you're going to face more tailwinds than you probably think you're going to. And that's one benefit of heading west to east, is you have the tailwinds on your back. But that day that we hit the 250, we definitely had them on our back. We had like 40-kilometer winds on our backs, and we were just flying, dude. It felt incredible.
Was there any time where you were getting headwinds? Like,
Oh yeah, there were so many days of headwinds. Like
yeah,
there was one day in Ontario where I think it took us about like 9 or 10 hours to move about 80 kilometers. So
really?
you're just like,
I think I saw your video. It just felt like you weren't moving forward at all.
exactly, like you're stuck there, and you're giving it your all. You should be flying on this bike, but because the wind is pushing you, you've got these big chunky bags on the side of your bike, creating resistance. It was just yeah, it was a bit of a nightmare sometimes. It was definitely a lot harder than you'd think. But because we wanted to finish out in the mountains and like really embrace that finish, it was worth those days of the headwinds.
Yeah, and then when you got to the final province, which is British Columbia,
Yep, I see.
what was like? Was it like you guys were like? Did you ever have any thoughts of stopping in the last province, or were you like, "There's no way we're stopping now"?
Yeah, I think once we got to like the Banff area and we actually hit the Rocky Mountains, like we were there, we had pretty much done the thing. It was like, okay, let's reel it home. Let's get this done.
Yeah.
And from there, I believe the final province only took us about a week because we were in just hammer mode. We were trying to get it done.
A week?
Yeah, no, a week.
Really?
We did the Coquihalla in 2 days, which is Canada's, I guess, fastest and like tallest highway. So it
Okay.
goes between 120 kilometers an hour the whole time, and it goes between up to like Merritt and Hope, BC. So it's like one big descent. Sorry, one big climb, huge descent, another big climb, and then a huge descent, and then you're basically in Vancouver. So
Okay.
yeah, that was scary. It was the hardest thing, like probably the hardest part of the trip climbing wise. And it was just like,
Just on your bikes, like
yeah, there was like parts of it where we'd have like 40, 50 kilometers of just climbing ahead of us. And, the whole day you're climbing up a hill. But like I said, when you go up for that long, eventually you come back down, and those downhills were probably the most fun I've ever had on a bike, man.
yeah, that'd be awesome just to like float down a
It was like
hill.
you're on a motorcycle, basically. You just, yeah.
That'd be awesome. So, like, why did you guys decide to do like a fundraiser for this trip? Like, what kind of made that decision?
All of us kind of decided we wanted to, if we were going to be taking 4 months off of, away from life to just go have fun, we figured we might as well try and, do something for the greater good while we were at it. So I personally, my great-grandmother battled cancer, breast cancer, and we were fortunate enough to have some help from the Canadian Cancer Society. So we decided to, pay it forward. I really wanted to raise some funds for, cancer research and care. So, the funds that we raised ended up going towards helping people with anything from rides to and from their appointments to medication towards research, So it's just, for me personally, it was about paying it forward for my grandmother. Tyler and Aaron both have their own personal reasons too. For the most part, it's just every Canadian in Canada has been impacted by cancer in some way or another. So it's just our way of trying to pay it forward while we were, able to experience a once-in-a-lifetime trip.
What was your goal to kind of hit for the fundraising?
Yeah, so the goal was, we were pretty ambitious. We wanted to hit 50,000. So that was kind of our dream big, shoot for the stars. And we ended up finishing with just over 26,000. So we made it halfway there, which, we're absolutely stoked about. $26,000 donated towards cancer research and health is, something that,
No, that's awesome.
we're all stoked on. And, it's it's just an awesome benefit of also having an amazing trip. So
No, yeah. Just to raise like any amount, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
like 26 grand is not
Yeah,
a
no,
little amount
for
of
sure.
money. It's a lot of
No,
money.
again, we could have raised $1 for all we cared. We just really wanted to, try and make a difference and try and help those who
And
needed it. So
was there people sending you stuff? Like, did anyone kind of send you stuff along your way that kind of helped with the
absolutely.
journey?
So apart from the fundraiser, which was directly through Canadian Cancer Society, so we didn't see any of the money from that. People were also extremely kind and sent us things like, Timmy's gift cards. We'd meet strangers on the side of the road who would hear about our story. They'd see our bikes outside of Tim Hortons and ask about it, and we got when we were in Winnipeg, there was actually a guy on the side of the road who, saw our bike, saw us fixing a flat tire, came up to us, asked what we were doing, really connected with our reasoning, and gave us like $100 for dinner right there on the spot. So there was lots of times where, we truly felt the Canadian culture, the Canadian kindness, and there was people that were just so kind and giving towards us, from taking us in for a night, giving us a place to sleep, giving us meals, giving us water on the side of the road. There was just too many ways to count of people blessing us. So it was a
You said people saw you. Like, did they know who you were just from like? Because you also got like news outlets to kind of do stories on you, right?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. We met, I think, 2 people along the trip that actually knew who we were and what we were doing. But apart from that, it was a lot of people just curious to see 3 dudes outside of a Tim Hortons with fully loaded bikes. So it was a lot of talking to people along the way, letting them know what we were doing it, why we were doing it, and it was kind of the one time in life that you actually can brag about the fact that you're cycling across the whole country. So it was yeah, it was lots of fun just to kind of share the story with people, get people excited about what we were doing, and yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, like just like I'm sure it would have been like if people saw you, like, hey, we're doing this, or you guys are doing this, and we just kind of noticed, and we just did anyone kind of like drive along with you for parts of it, or
Yeah, so there's actually a guy in Newfoundland who we saw quite a few times on the side of the highway, just from him having to drive the Trans Canada every day.
oh, okay,
And
was he
he's
like a truck driver?
sort of not like a traditional truck driver, but he had a truck that he was driving.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so he saw us one time on the side of the highway near the beginning of Newfoundland, and he wished us the best. He figured out what we were doing, and then the next day we saw him. He stopped, gave us like a Robbins, which is the Newfoundland Tim Hortons gift card.
The Newfoundland. Why they don't have Tim Hortons there?
They do, but Robbins is sort of like it's like what the locals go to instead.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So yeah, so gift cards, stuff like that. We met another guy named Eddie who we met earlier in the trip in Newfoundland, and then when we got to his restaurant, he actually fed us for free, stuff
Oh,
like that.
nice.
Just people really paying it forward towards us, and just showing us that true hospitality without expecting anything in return, which was awesome.
So he kind of took you in and gave you food, and then
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's kind of come back tenfold. Anytime I see cyclists on the side of the road now that are obviously touring, I'll do my best to give them water, give them a snack, and make sure that they're good to keep going.
and you live like half the year in Costa Rica, right?
Yeah, so I actually kind of grew up half in Costa Rica. I moved there when I was 13, and half here in Canada. And yeah, I do like to spend a fair amount of my time out there. It is beautiful. It's paradise, and yeah, I don't think I'd ever bike there though, to be honest.
No?
No,
Is it?
roads are a little scary.
Yeah. Yeah, I got the privilege to come visit you
Yeah.
a few months ago, and the roads, yeah, they definitely were a little
A little different, right?
sketchy, but like, so it's not something you would probably do there. You don't think you'd.
If I were to do something out there, it would probably be on like the side roads or like beach trails, that kind of stuff. But I
Yeah.
don't think I'd find myself on like a highway and over there.
Have you done a lot of biking since the trip, or have you totally kind of just put it down?
After the trip, I definitely thought I was going to get more biking in than I did, but due to a couple health circumstances and stuff like that, I had to take a little bit more time away than I wanted to. And then I actually went to Costa Rica after that. So again, I did a little bit of mountain biking out there, but not a ton. Now that I'm back home, I've definitely been on my bike a lot more, and I actually just went for a 70-kilometer ride the other day, and my legs were fried, man. I couldn't believe how sore I was. It made me question how I was ever able to do 250 in a day.
Yeah, that's also what I want to ask you. Like, did you weigh yourself before and after the trip, or?
Yeah, so I think all of us lost anywhere from like 12 to 25 pounds. Aaron lost the biggest amount of weight. I mean, you can see it on his face in the videos. Like
Yeah.
when you go from Newfoundland to British Columbia, he definitely looks very different. And it's just part of that. You're burning so many calories, so many thousands of calories a day, and honestly, it's hard to get that food back into you. So yeah.
Did you notice like any muscle increase in like your legs, or?
Absolutely. So my upper body just completely went away. I actually competed.
Yeah?
I competed in a bodybuilding show the year before, and then I went on this bike trip, and I turned into basically a skeleton up top. However, my legs, I don't think I've ever seen my legs so jacked in my whole life. They were drunks, man.
Yeah?
It was surprising because it was like the top of my quad that got really big. I thought it'd be like down lower down here,
Yeah.
but it was like this part of my quad was huge.
Okay.
So yeah.
And did you lose it quick or?
Yeah, I mean, after I stopped biking, it definitely went away a little
Yeah.
faster. But then once I got back into the gym, I was dealing with some wrist issues and stuff like that after the bike trip, so it took me a little while to heal.
So like after BC, like how did it end? Like what did you guys do to?
So we started out in Cape Spear, which is the furthest point west in all of Canada, and then we made it to Mile Zero, Victoria, BC. So that last day, we started in Vancouver. We made it to Aaron's apartment the night before.
Was that on the island?
Yeah, so we took a ferry from Vancouver over to Vancouver Island.
Yeah.
And from there, it was a cruisy 30 kilometers of beautiful trails towards Mile Zero. From there, we dipped our tires into the Pacific Ocean and kind of wrapped up the trip.
Did you like throw your bikes out or something, or what did?
No, we definitely.
Were they just like they were still in good shape? So
all of our bikes are still in great shape. That's the one nice thing. Like I said, we bought steel frame bikes, so they should last us the next like 10, 15 years to come.
Okay.
It's just getting tunes up. It's just getting those tune-ups, maybe changing the probably better to change the gear rings eventually, changing your chain, that kind of stuff.
But they'll still be good to go for like another.
But yeah, the actual
adventure.
frame of the bike will be beautiful.
Did you guys all buy these bikes together?
Yeah, so we didn't buy them together, but we all bought them around the same time.
Okay.
And we all bought pretty much the exact same model of bike, just so things would be easy and cohesive during the trip. One thing's wrong on this bike, it's going to be the same thing on that bike. So there was lots of cross-referencing between them when we had problems. And so we were glad that we all had a reliable steed for the most part.
So at the end, like, did you have to like mail your stuff back to like your home, or like you guys took a plane from?
Yeah, so Tyler and Aaron stayed in Vancouver, and I flew back to Ontario. So
they like stayed there?
Yeah, so Aaron and Tyler both live in BC
Oh,
now.
okay.
Yeah, so I bought a bike box and flew home with my bike, packed everything up, and it was insane how much faster it was to fly home than to bike home.
Yeah, that's gonna be crazy, going from like one of the slowest modes of transportation to the fastest.
Yeah, that is one thing I really do enjoy about biking is it's that perfect pace for me. It's not so slow where it's like walking where it's almost boring.
Yeah.
You're going fast enough where you can still take in your surroundings and it feels like you're actually traveling, but you can really, embrace everything that's going around you and, take advantage of where you are at the moment instead of being in a car where you're just flying by. So it was an awesome way to see Canada, and it was a good time.
Was there anyone using like an electric bike? Would like an electric bike would have been better, or?
I think there definitely would have been times like having pedal assist or something like that would have been helpful, but like I said, there were so many rural parts of the highway where like trying to find somewhere to charge, unless you had solar, like there was no way you could do that trip on an e-bike. So.
No. Was it like for most part of Canada, was there service on your phones, or was it more?
Yeah, surprisingly, like Tyler and I only used Google Maps the whole trip. For the most part, there was only like 2 or 3 days where we didn't have service, but we also had a Garmin InReach, which is kind of like a computer, a GPS, and it also has like an emergency function where, worst case, we didn't have service and something went wrong, we could still be in touch with emergency services. So
Okay. So you guys had
we had what we needed just in case, but for the most part, yeah, there was service the whole way.
But you were so like you had a GPS you were following each day, like.
For the most part, we just use Google Maps on our phones.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, but you had it like on there, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were following it.
Yeah.
Okay.
For the most part, especially in cities and stuff like that, we needed it to get around. But
right.
I mean, when you're on the highway in the prairies, the only way you can go is straight. So it sounds like that. You didn't have to question it, but.
Yeah. Oh, dang. Yeah, I don't know. That's awesome.
Yeah, we ended the trip in, like I said, Mile Zero, Victoria, and we had a couple friends there waiting for us. It was just an awesome way to, reflect on the 4 months we had just spent together, and celebrated that night.
Oh, you guys had like family meet you there?
We didn't have family. We had just like a couple of close friends that were in the area, but yeah, it was just an awesome way to like really celebrate with the boys and be stoked. And yeah, it's just it's a feeling that I don't know if I'll ever be able to replicate. Just given the circumstance, given how much work and how many kilometers we put into that, like pedal strokes, millions of them, like just, yeah, it was a crazy feeling to know that we had actually reached the end and that we had done it as a team. I don't think I could have done it solo. I honestly, if I didn't have the boys with me, there's no way I would have finished it. So it's just one of those things where, happiness is best when shared, and having a support system around you really makes a huge difference. So
Dude, that's awesome that you were able to do that.
yeah, it was a trip of a lifetime. I definitely wouldn't change it for the world. And I'd encourage anybody watching, if you have a crazy idea and a crazy adventure you want to seek, absolutely go for it. We only get one shot at this life, and life is short, but youth is even shorter. So be sure to get out there and take advantage of it.
I think that's the perfect note to end on here.
Cool.
Thanks for sharing your story, and
of course, thanks for watching. Thanks for tattooing me.
Yeah,
be
definitely.
Sure to come check out Lakeside Ink. Come get some goodies done on you. Jesse will kill it. Whole shop is more than capable.
Yeah, definitely check out his channel. What is it? What's your YouTube?
Yeah, just James Deere Adventures on YouTube. If you type in James Deere Cycling Across Canada, you can check out the series. Like I said, it's 6 videos, ranging from 25 to 45-ish minutes. So be sure to check it out. You can kind of relive the adventure with us and get a real deep dive into what we've been talking about the last hour.
Nice, dude. Well, thanks for coming. Hopefully we'll have you on again when you do your trip through Japan or even Europe.
Sweet, for sure.
Yeah, man. All right.
Awesome. Well, thanks, boss.
No worries.
Thanks for watching.